Getting off of the truck and making your first hire in your home service and contracting business is one, the scariest thing that a home service business owner ever does, but two, it's also probably the hardest thing that they ever do because you're kind of in that gray area where you're starting to make money, but you don't have enough money to comfortably pay somebody a full-time salary, but you're too busy to do everything yourself. So in this video, we're gonna go over exactly how I fired myself from doing everything myself when I was a solo owner-operator to having this photo behind me is half of my staff in peak season, how I did it, how I decided what position to hire first, and then if I could go back and do it differently, what I would do. So if you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We are home service and contracting businesses that are chasing multiple six-figure months. None of the stuff I talk about, the stories about my own business or the stories about the people in Home Service Accelerator are income claims of any kind. If you're watching this and you think just watching a few YouTube videos and not executing, you're going to immediately go do multiple six-figure months. I got news for you. It's not going to happen. These are stories from the people that are doing the best, and I'm taking the tidbits from my own business and people that I've worked directly with and sharing them with you so you can hopefully take a few of those things and implement it. So let's begin. So let's start with getting off the truck. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you how I did it, and then I'm going to tell you how I would do it now with the knowledge I have 5-6 years later comparatively. So how I did it, we're taking the Christmas light business, but this will apply to 99% of home service businesses. I've talked to pest control guys who have sold their pest control businesses for 9 figures. They did it the exact same way. I've talked to garage door guys. I've talked to HVAC guys. It doesn't matter what home service or contracting trade is. This is pretty much a foolproof way to do it. So this is what I did. When I look at the facets of the business and the way the business operated, I broke it down into 3 categories. There was fulfillment, so the operations, the people doing the actual thing we're selling. So that would be like the light installers in this situation. There was marketing, which was me at the time, but it's how are we marketing? How are we setting up ad campaigns? How are we doing all of the social media, all of that jazz? And then there's sales. And so that is like the people going out, either selling in person, people selling over the phone, whatever else. And then bonus points is like there's the back end clerical work. But for the most part, what you want to do and what I did in this scenario was what is the one thing that I can hire and train the easiest that can buy me back the most of my time? In my scenario, it was very clearly fulfillment, the operations side. My first year of business, I did every single thing myself. So if you're watching this video and you don't have any employees, I know what you're going through. You're doing it all. And the brutal reality of it is the sooner you realize that doing it all and being busy is not you actually being productive and being a good business owner, the quicker you'll jump to that next tier. So maybe that next tier for you looks like 50K a month. Maybe it looks like 100K a month. Maybe it looks like 300K a month. Whatever it is, the universal law is the quickest you can fire yourself and train other people to do the input work, the bigger the business is going to grow. So in my case, it was hiring operations people and installers. So what I did is I looked at the business and I went, I can train people to install the lights. And then what happens is if I was normally spending 6-7 hours a day in the first year, we're talking 8 to 10 hours a day installing lights. If I train somebody to do that, I then take the hours that I was spending installing lights and then I go focus on sales and marketing. So this is the key distinction. You don't just hire somebody and then not reallocate that time into revenue producing tasks. Like you don't just hire somebody and go sit on the couch. You hire somebody to do the fulfillment and then you go double, triple, quadruple the amount of time you spend on sales and marketing. And so for a lot of you guys, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to hire and train somebody to do the fulfillment. Let's say you're a window cleaner. You're going to hire and train somebody to clean the windows. Then what you're going to do is the time spent in the day that you used to just do cleaning windows, feeling productive, when in reality you were just working in the business and not on the business. You're going to take that time that you now have back and you're going to go do more sales, more marketing, more whatever else. Maybe that looks like door knocking if you're a younger guy and your business is new. Maybe that looks like really dialing in on the ads. Maybe that looks like cold calling commercial opportunities, whether it's like setting a calendar for yourself during the day where you're like, all right, for the next, month, I'm going to call 50 commercial opportunities a day without exception, 5 days a week, and I'm going to sell them. That's the key is you don't just hire somebody to do fulfillment and then do the same thing because you just hired somebody to do fulfillment. You now have to go sell more to afford them. That's the key. So you have to find the revenue producing tasks to fill the newfound time you just bought back in. So that's what I did. Then after that, I went and I offloaded sales. So I brought on two salespeople because then what happened was year one, I was doing everything myself. Then I was able to focus on just sales and marketing. And imagine that we tripled in the next year because all I did was sales and marketing. But what started to happen was when I audited my time there, I was like, damn, I'm spending a lot of time driving to quotes, going back and forth with people on the phone, all of this other jazz, that, and the third. And I was wasting a bunch of time actually doing the sales when I knew that I could hire salespeople. And then because I hired salespeople, they could actually end up, now I had two people spending 40 hours a week doing sales. Where comparatively speaking, when I was doing all of it myself, we had one person spending probably 30 to 35 hours a week on sales because I was also doing other stuff too as an owner. So then what happens, what people don't talk about enough on the internet when they make content about like scaling and hiring, whatever else, is you don't understand the impact of when you hire a specialized employee that does just that task and nothing else. Like when you hire a salesperson, when all they do is eat, sleep, and breathe sales, and they spend 40 to 50 hours a week doing that, you would be amazed at how, even if they're 75% as good as you are, but they're able to spend 40, 50 hours a week doing it compared to you wearing 18 different hats as an owner, maybe spending a little less time, you would be stunned at how much the business grows by doing that. So, that's what I offloaded second. Then what I offloaded third was like the clerical back office support, kind of like a back end operations role, for lack of a better term. And so that was like dealing with customer invoices, doing the schedule, all of the HR stuff for hiring, like making sure we were compliant everywhere, paying the bills, all of that jazz. I actually did that third. And what's interesting is some people might push back on that a little bit. If I could go back, I might have swapped hiring the clerical work before the salespeople. But other than that, I wouldn't change anything. So if you look at the trajectory, it was hiring operations first. I would still do that the exact same. I would still get myself off the truck as fast as possible, and then I would maybe swap, like maybe hire a VA or hire an assistant to do like the clerical work. Hopefully, knowing that you have enough to actually make them productive for 40 hours a week, and then maybe do sales. But this is the key distinction you have to make. You have to make sure you understand that back office support is not a revenue generator. That is why I hired salespeople and ops first. Ops allowed me to be a salesperson. Salespeople are directly tied to making more sales. So you hire sales, and in return, your top line sales number goes up. If you hire clerical office work first, sure, it makes your life a little bit more convenient, but you need to kind of pick up the slack on the sales side after. So that's the key distinction I want to make sure I make. Now, we have all that said and done. I want to kind of segue into another side that most home service businesses get tempted with early on. And so that's like, okay, I don't know marketing that well. Let me go pay somebody to do the marketing for me. Or like, I don't know, accounting that well. So let me go pay somebody to do the accounting for me. Or, I don't know SEO that well. Let me go pay somebody to do the SEO for me. If your business is doing less than 100K a month, I'm just going to give you the breakdown right here of who you should hire out and who you shouldn't. So if you're doing less than 100K a month, you should not hire a Facebook ad agency at all. That is so easy to do now. It is so black and white. It's a proven structure and creative. Ask me how I know. I've done it for 370 other home service businesses, including my own. I don't pay an agency to run Facebook and Instagram ads or anything. You can learn that and do it yourself, and it doesn't take as much time as you think. It's actually very much a set it and forget it thing once you crack it. But that's what Home Service Accelerator does. Shameless plug. We teach businesses how to fish. We don't believe that agencies should be fishing for them in Facebook ads until they reach like 2-3 mil a year, because then they can afford a good agency that spends a lot of hands-on time. Typically those cost like $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Therefore, doesn't make sense if you're not doing crazy revenue numbers to justify that cost. So that's there. The second thing, Google Maps SEO, you can do yourself for free. Like the things you have to do on Google Maps SEO, you do not need to hire an agency for. Now, if you're in a business that has really, really good high intent search volume on Google, few examples: Christmas lights in peak season, permanent lights in peak season, roofers, plumbers, HVAC, businesses like that where there's a ton of high intent search traffic on Google, I actually recommend hiring a Google pay-per-click ad agency. Pay-per-click ads, not LSA, not Google Maps SEO, like a Google pay-per-click ad agency. I actually recommend hiring an agency for that. That's decent. when I say decent, you should be paying them probably $1,000 to $2,000 a month in management, and then you should probably be allocating maybe $6,000 to $10,000 in ad spend into Google pay-per-click ads to make that work. That's the ratio like it needs to be at. Like the thing that drives me crazy is when somebody is paying an agency $1,000 a month and then they're actually spending on whatever that agency is managing like $1,500 or $2,000 a month. So the easy math is like if you're paying $1,000 a month to someone to manage it and then they're actually only playing with $1,000 a month in the platform, 50% of your marketing spend for that is going towards management fees. Like that ratio needs to be closer to like 10, 15, maybe 20% at most. So like for me, we've just now hired an agency for Home Service Accelerator because we spend so much money on ads. The actual agency cost that I have to pay in management is a small percentage of what I'm spending on ads because we spend so much on ads. So that's the ratio that makes sense. Now, you guys hear me talk about anti agency. This business does over $1 million a year. I am in that new category where, as an owner, it actually makes sense and I can afford the experts. I'm practicing what I preach. I got to $1 million a year doing it all myself and then eventually made the business decision. But that's a conversation for another time. So, outside of that, the other things that people might want to say they can do for you is like SEO, like old school SEO. I don't think until you're doing $1 million a year, you should even attempt to like rank high on organic results for SEO because all the stuff you do in the Google Maps pack and all of the SEO that goes there is where the majority of your traffic's going to be. And so if you ask somebody like how to rank higher on Google Maps, they're going to tell you like, "Oh, go do SEO and all that." Yes, it can help, but I'm like walking talking proof with Valley Premier Lighting's SEO and the Maps SEO that we're ranking on and Valley Christmas Lights and a bunch of other people in Home Service Accelerator that like I didn't get there by paying an SEO agency $2,000 a month to do that for me. Like a lot of that was myself. So when you do all these things, you have to understand what can you actually execute properly on yourself as an owner that's a good use of your time, and then what starts to make sense to hire the experts to do. But the brutal reality in home services specifically is for every one good agency, whether they're a Google pay-per-click agency, whether they're a Facebook ad agency, whether they're a website agency, whatever, for every one good one, there's about 99 bad ones. And for all the 99 bad ones, they're all typically in that $600 to $1,500 a month range because they don't feel like they're good enough to charge big businesses. So what do? They charge smaller businesses what they think the small businesses can afford. And then what happens is they get 40, 50 customers at that small rate. They look at your account once a month. They don't do anything. You're just a number on a screen because their business economics don't make sense. And then you're mad at them in 3 months. You leave to another one. You get mad at them 3 months later. You leave to another one. Do it yourself for as long as possible. Trust me. So you're probably thinking about the numbers about hiring somebody. So let's do really easy math. So if you're paying an employee $20 an hour, let's just say you're hiring a tech of some kind for your business, and you're going to like, okay, I want to pay them $20 an hour. There's two different ways you can do this when you're starting out. I'm talking to the guy who's like just hiring their first employee right now, or maybe they're hiring their first one or two, or maybe they're, somewhere between below 5 employees. You have to understand that you don't have to hire a full-time guy immediately when you're going down this path. There's a lot of people looking for 20-hour-a-week jobs, 30-hour-a-week jobs. And so, again, the problem with a lot of the content on the internet is it's a lot of guys that have, 9-figure businesses, 8-figure businesses talking about just like hiring. It's like, oh yeah, you just go hire somebody. But a lot of those guys tend to forget what it's like when you're just hitting like 20, 30, 40K a month. But let's do the math here really quick. A $20 an hour employee that is full-time W-2 before taxes, workman's comp, anything else is like $41,600 a year. Add on probably 15 to 20% for all of the taxes, insurance, everything else that comes with it. And that $41,000 a year employee is actually going to cost you closer to like 55,000, something around there. I'm just doing broad numbers, but I'm giving you the actual what you think you're going to pay an employee hourly. It's actually going to be a lot higher than that. And they're also going to take time to ramp up. They're not going to be as sharp as you. You're going to pay for their mistakes, all of that jazz. And so you have to have a lot more margin built in to make this make sense. So if you're a new guy, I actually recommend like maybe just trying a helper in the beginning. Like I'm talking like if your first employee, try a helper. Say like, hey, I just need help in these jobs. Like I can give you 20 hours a week with the opportunity to earn more. And then like for me, sometimes we hired guys that were like 20-hour-a-week guys, 25-hour-a-week guys, and pretty soon I just snatched them up full time because the numbers made sense. So when you're doing this, I'm just giving you permission. You don't have to rip off a 40 to 50, 60K a year salary immediately on your first hire. You can do it in chunks. Because like maybe you just bring on a helper And then your bandwidth goes from, I can install $1,000 or I can do $1,500 a day in work. Now you bring on the helper, maybe you can do $2,000 to $2,500 a day in work, and that justifies it. And then you just kind of ramp up from there. Eventually, you send them out on their own; they go that way. But you don't have to bring on the massive, massive salary right away. It's scary to do that. If the numbers don't make sense, they don't make sense. But I'll always go back to, if you can't afford a 40-hour a week employee, but you're too busy to fulfill everything yourself, then your margins are terrible and you're too cheap. That's all that's saying. So like if you're so busy and you're booked out all the time and you're spending 50, 60 hours a week as an owner in the business, but you cannot afford to hire help, your margins suck because you're the $2 chuck. That's just like what it is. That's not the friendliest thing to say, but that's just the equation. There's no other way around it. Like if you're packed busy and you can't afford help, you're too cheap. It means you don't have enough margin built into the jobs. You're not running at a high enough profit margin. So you need to raise your prices, which is scary, but it's what you have to do. So now you get in the next stage of the business. And this is where it gets really fun. Now you have what I would deem to be like leadership positions or managers. So this is my breakdown for my company. So this isn't like a hierarchy thing. This is just how it works. There's me. I'm the owner. I own 100% of Valley Christmas Lights. Under me, there are multiple leadership positions. Natalie runs the office. She has people under her that run the phones. She has like every other position in accounting, things like that go there. Then I have Jack, which is the director of operations in Valley Christmas Lights, my co-owner in the permanent lighting business. But in Valley Christmas Lights, he's the director of operations. So there's me, Natalie, Jack. And then there's Kyle, who is our head of sales. The salespeople go under Kyle. The install leads go under Jack. And then under those install leads, there are like the employees assigned to those install lead managers. And so what you have to understand is this is where it gets really fun, where like now in this position, let's take operations, for example. Jack answers to me. Jack answers to me on basic stuff. Like our metrics this year are like, are we installing $18,000 of revenue a day for, 60 something days? That's what our goal number is. So Jack answers to me on some very basic metrics. What's our labor look like this week? How efficient are we with labor? Did we meet our install revenue goals? How many callbacks do we have? Whatever else. And then under Jack, he has different metrics that he judges his install leads on that feed up to the metrics that he answers to me for. And so under Jack, his individual crews are like, hey man, this week you finished an 8-hour shift in 6 hours, 4 of the 5 days. That's awesome. You're being super efficient. Gold star. Versus the alternative, hey man, we paid overtime to 6 employees this week because you weren't efficient enough during the install days. What's going wrong? And then that manager answers to Jack for those metrics. And then that manager holds his own team accountable for getting the jobs done quicker. Maybe it's something we need to work, a different SOP, anything like that. That's like the basic hierarchy. And so if you take my business and then multiply it by like a couple 100,000, take somebody like A1 Garage Door, like Tommy Mello, makes a lot of content. His org chart at A1 is absolutely absurd compared to mine. He will have, an entire C-suite. So it's Tommy, and then what I would imagine is CFO, COO, CMO, CSO, all these different C-suites, whatever their hierarchy is. And then under those C-suites, they probably have directors or VPs or something like that under them. And then those directors have managers under them. And those managers probably have like senior install techs or senior positions under them. And then those positions probably have people under them. The company org chart grows, but the best companies get the most out of the fewest amount of people they have to pay as possible. But if you're doing $200 something million a year, your org chart's going to be pretty extensive. And so you don't just get there overnight. All of these guys get there piece by piece by piece. And so it starts with your first employee, and then it goes to your first employee, and then your employee becomes a manager, and then your manager becomes a manager of people, and then that manager of people maybe ascends to like a director role where he manages multiple managers, and then things just kind of go and snowball from there. I didn't start the Christmas light business or the permanent lighting business or even Home Service Accelerator for that matter with the idea that like I had this crazy org chart in mind in the future. It was just as the business grows, you see a need, you hire for that need, and then you justify the cost of hiring that need by doing more numbers. And then you just keep going. And so that to me is like the blueprint rule of thumb. If you're a home service business owner or contractor, get off the truck as fast as possible. Start with part-time guys if you're a little bit tighter on funds, or hire full-time guys. Train them properly. We'll have another full video about how to train employees properly and quantify like actually training them properly. And then from there, you go do it in a different department. You scale up that way. Ideally, anytime you hire somebody, the result you get from that hire should be In the beginning, a lot more revenue, a lot more profitable, a lot more revenue, a lot more profitable, and keep going with every hire. You don't want to hire a bunch of sunk cost positions early on. Like you don't want to hire a bunch of office staff or like a bunch of agencies or a bunch of people that like don't directly impact producing revenue. You want to go to the revenue producing positions first and then work your way down. So if you like this video, feel free to click the subscribe button. If you want to join the Home Service Accelerator, there's an application link in the description. We have 2 programs for businesses that are on the smaller side. I don't want to sell you something that is going to stress you out because you're not going to get the best result out of using that product if you're stressed out about buying it. So you can start at our starter school, or if you meet the revenue criteria and you go through the application process and we decide you're a good fit for Home Service Accelerator Pro, we'll tell you that after you fill out the application. We'll talk to you about what it looks like, where we come in, we build a bunch of Facebook ad campaigns for you. We show you exactly how to do it, you and your staff. We build you a bunch of SOPs that you can take and turn around to have your staff constantly be running your own Facebook, Instagram ads. We fix all of your back-end automations, set you up on systems that I use in my business, all that jazz, and you're a member of a massive community there. That's the pro group. It's a little bit harder to get into. You have to meet some basic criteria, but click the application if you want to get into our ecosystem one way or another. And if you're a smaller business, you'll climb up to the point where pro makes sense. And if you're a bigger business, pro will take you to the next tier. So click that application. We'll see you there, or just keep watching this for free. And I love that you guys watch it. Comment what you liked, what you didn't like, what you disagree with, and I'll see you guys in the next video.